Okay. One, two, three. Hello, gentle viewers, and welcome to another episode of Alistair Reviews It. I have not been on here for a while, but luckily, I'm coming back with my friend, Carlos Crawford.
Hi.
Host of Slayerfest 98 and co-host of My Bloody Judy with my husband. If I sound kind of echoey, I apologize. This is a very empty room as we're moving. So today we are going to be talking about In Every Generation by Kendare Blake. This is a book that just came out, last month? I want to say January?
Yeah, January, yeah.
This came out last month in January, and the author is known for her Three Dark Crowns trilogy. So this book takes place, I want to say pre-pandemic, about like 2019, and it follows a character called Frankie the Vampire Slayer, who is Willow's daughter, and how she deals with becoming a Slayer. And then it tries to introduce us to a couple new characters, and then have a couple of older characters come in, such as Willow, Oz, Spike, and kind of almost make it a requel for us and give it a soft reboot for people who are new to Buffy.
Yeah. That's a good summation, Alistair.
Thank you, Ian. So real quick, I just want to, this will be our spoiler-free portion of the books. We're going to talk about the book itself, some of the plot, and what we think the expectations should be going into the book for anybody wanting to pick it up and read it for themselves. And then we're going to be going into our spoilery portion. We'll talk about the plot, we'll talk about the characters, and our overall spoilery impressions of the book. So if you want to read the book, then stop after we give our spoiler free. And then if you don't care, you can just go all the way through. So, okay. If you want to start with your spoiler-free thoughts and expectations of.
Oh God! Anytime I have to do something spoiler-free, I'm like nervous. I'm like, oh, I'm going to say the wrong thing and be spoilery. I think for new fans, it's kind of easily accessible because anything that needs to be explained is like quickly, briefly explained. So you can just jump into this, even if you're if you're like a new to like the Buffyverse or casual Buffy fan, it's pretty easily accessible, I think. It does a good job of like building the new Sunnydale. It's weird that it's a like you learn that she's a Slayer, but it's on the cover, so it's like weird that like I feel like the book doesn't quite start with that. But that's fine. But yeah, I think it's easily accessible for new fans or old fans. It's like a quicker read. It's a book that's worth checking out. I think it's worth checking out. Alistair, I'll pass the ball to you.
So I think this book is definitely very well written. I do think that just letting y'all know, I'm taking it at least as a what if or elsewhere story for the Buffyverse, because I guess the Buffy team for Disney Hyperion says it's canon, but the comic books also stand to be canon, so take it as a different timeline. But I think it's a very well written book. I can tell that Kendare Blake is kind of a logical choice if you're going to choose like a YA author to write another book. I think we both reviewed together the Slayer and Chosen Duology by Kirsten White.
Yeah.
And I think this book for new fans, everything is kind of explained there for you. If you might sometimes feel like you're missing an inside joke, that you wouldn't get unless you actually watch Buffy. And for old fans, I think that if you're a casual old fan, you might enjoy it. But if you're a big Buffy fan, there's going to be a lot of gripes throughout this. I do think that this book did a disservice somewhat in not including a lot more diversity, both race-wise, sexuality, in different ways that I think that the opportunity was really, really there. And I think that this book tore down some things to build other things, just like the Sunny Down in here. And I'm not sure if a lot of people are going to like that. I did like some of the book. However, it definitely wasn't my favorite read. I will say that.
Yeah. I mean, you just said like maybe for the biggest Buffy fan, then I was like, well, that's us. Like we are both very big Buffy fans. So yeah, there are some gripes. I don't know. I'm like, don't say that. That's spoilery. I don't know that because like I didn't find Oz to feel like the Oz that I know and love. But like I did think Spike was well written, and I did think Willow's dialogue felt like I could hear. Like I think you said this in one of our other recordings, like you could hear Alison Hannigan delivering some of the lines, and I agree with that. It could have used a pinch more Slayers.
Yes, I think that it could. I think I said this some to the effect on your Patreon. He's going to be putting out a Patreon episode where we go into depth with his producer and editor on this book. So if y'all want more of that, definitely check that out. But I think that it could have used a bit more of that. I think it could have used an extra POV.
Yeah.
That's what I think it could have used, an extra POV to give it a layers and depth, where you have the older Scooby's POV and then the younger Scooby's POV. I think that would have maybe worked better narratively.
Yeah.
I do think that some of the big bads are pretty creative. And you do have some very classic YA tropes, like the tall, dark, and handsome, love interest and everything like that. So, sorry, if that's something you're looking for in this, it's there.
And the big bad, I think we both did like the big bad, right?
We did. I really like the big bad, the whole concept for it, and I'm actually surprised that I haven't heard more stuff like that before. We're not going to give them spoilers for that, but I think it's safe to say there's some historical context, that you can definitely apply for the big bad, and it's really cool. The other thing I did want to clarify is I do think Kendare Blake is a Buffy fan. However, all of her stuff is fact-checked through the Hyperion Buffy team. And I think a lot of the stuff that didn't make sense as Buffy lore or wasn't fact-checked well by the Buffy Hyperion team. We were like, oh, that doesn't make sense. So I want to harp on that too badly.
Yeah, and I don't know. We learn. I'm trying to say it in a non-spoiler way. We learn how Willow's daughter, like, what happened there.
Became herself.
Like no, like how Willow would have a daughter that's this age in this, like, how and when that happened, and that was like one of my biggest gripes was that I didn't love that. That was maybe my biggest, like the reveal of that, and we just kind of blew past it. That was a little shaky for me. But again, I do think you're right. I think probably the team was like, this is what we're doing. You write that, but it has to be this way. Right.
No, I agree. And I think this might be a good time for us to kind of transition into the spoiler portion of it. So we'll give our brief spoilery overviews, kind of stuff we're flirting with right now.
We're like dancing around it.
Yes. And I think that, so right off the bat, I'm just going to say it. I think that this book takes some of the bad turns from the Buffy and Angel shows and is another repeat offender. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about non-consenting magical pregnancies, where you tear down kind of really the women characters to either forward one, an angel, different plot. And it's kind of like almost horrifying to see it happen again here. And then also the, what is it called? The Buffy is such a big, I don't know, paragon of building up women, so much to the point where season 7, spoiler alert if you haven't watched season 7, it's all about having these women who have the potential to be huge, warriors, huge people, and Buffy, saying my power is your power. And this book kind of starts out saying, we're just gonna kill everyone. And I thought that was kind of a kick in the nuts.
Because we're like just waiting the whole book for the reveal that they're not dead. Like that's, I don't know about you, but I was like, when do we get to the reveal that Buffy's not dead? There's no way Buffy's dead. But then we get the like, oh, we're pretty sure Faith is dead. And then it's like, no, there's no, like, we don't really so, okay, we are talking spoilers. So I can,
yes,
I think like the thing, and I am not trying to compare, but the thing Kirsten did well was like, she used Buffy, but sparingly, right? She used Buffy and Faith just a little bit. This book doesn't use them at all. And for me, I needed just like a sprinkle, even if it's like she's in her dreams, which is what Buffy's mostly used in Kirsten's books. I think that's the best way to have Buffy in something like this. And we just like, she kept talking about Aunt Buffy, and it felt like there should have been flashbacks to maybe like
them connecting.
Yeah, like them, like, yeah, because we just only heard about it, and it's a book, so you can do a flashback. It's not like, you can do whatever you want. So I think like maybe a few flashbacks to like Frankie when she was younger, maybe like being babysat by Buffy, or like, thinking how cool her aunt is because her aunt's the Slayer, like something like that, where she's like looking up to her.
No, I think that would have definitely added a lot of much needed context to it, because we're being introduced to Frankie, who, for her, in her mind, she's been with the Scooby Gang her entire life, but we're just being introduced to her. So we kind of needed that connection that we didn't really get. And it kind of breaks up a little bit, because they have this huge thing that happened, and then a more localized problem around Sunnydale, but nobody's dealing with the Slayer massacre, and Spike stays around. So that all was very, very, very confusing for me. And I know that this is supposed to be a trilogy, and I do agree. I'm not trying to compare, but it's hard to compare, not to compare, when there's another YA duology from the same team that came out a couple of years ago. And I do want to say, I think Kirsten White did a good job of building a new Slayer in the Buffyverse that is adjacent to it, instead of trying to take over the entire narrative, so that you can build your own story. You're not going to be like, oh, let's do Buffy the Vampire Slayer, kill her off, and make it Kennedy. You do something else. You put Kennedy somewhere else.
Make it Kennedy. God, everyone would be so mad.
Yeah, it wouldn't have any fun. So now that we've talked kind of our free thoughts and expectations of the book, let's talk about characters just real quick before we get back into the plot, and then just like have all those thoughts. So characters. So our titular, not really titular, but our big new Slayer is called Frankie Rosenberg, Frankie the Vampire Slayer. And she is the daughter of Willow. She's Willow's spitting image, from what we hear. And she is also the first witch Slayer, which lore issues with that, I think, is a really cool concept. But it almost feels for me like, oh, I just want to be better than all the other people before me, kind of thing.
Also, her other parent, I mean, now that we're talking spoilers, is the first Slayer Sanaya, and I did not, that plot did not land for me. That like plot point of she was born because Willow got pregnant when she did the spell on the scythe. And also, I mean, you pointed this out in the non-spoiler part. We have to remember that it does, because I read in like the wiki, it takes supposed to take place in like 2019 or 2020 because her age doesn't make sense if it took place this year, right? Like that,
Yeah.
she would have to be older. That bothered me. Um, I How did you feel about that, Alistair? Because that was like I think the first time I texted you was like, oh, I got to this plot point and I really didn't like it.
Well, I mean, we talked about the hit upon the magical pregnancy stuff, and then I think this could have been left out or maybe touched upon better because the confusing part of it, and it's even confusing for the main character, who's like, well, if my you know parent is the first Slayer who is a black woman, why am I not that?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also maybe it could have been we could have brought in a black woman as a Slayer. We never had a focused black woman as a Slayer. Or you even had like the opportunity to have that. Talking about another character, I think her name Haley. Is that her name?
Yeah. Yeah.
Haley is Vi's sister. But we easily could have had Rona instead.
That's yeah. They really like
Yeah,
didn't matter. Vi's barely in it, so like we could have just had it be Rona.
yeah, we could have had Rona instead. We could have had Haley be a black woman. Um, I feel like it's just such a missed opportunity to actually bring some diversity into the book,
Yeah.
and that's something else I think Buffy and Angel struggled with
Yeah. Oh
was
yeah.
having a diverse cast. In a lot of ways, Buffy was like very like leaning forward into the times, and in a lot of ways, it could have been better. So it was
I don't
hard.
know. I don't know if you listened to the interview when I interviewed J. August Richards, but he actually said he got hired because there was like a mandate that
I
all
listened
those
to that.
shows,
Yeah.
yeah, like that's why they like brought in Gunn, because there was like a mandate that every show like needed to have like at least one black character, and that show had zero black characters. So literally that's why Gunn was brought in. Which
And I
is
love
wild
that
because
Gunn
then
was brought in. I love it.
yeah, which is wild because then like Buffy never did that. So I don't know why it didn't, but whatever. And
I don't
like
know.
so
Angel was trying to get through, get by with having Lauren.
yeah, they're like, well, he's
Like,
green, right?
no.
So yeah, I was thinking about like just thinking about like you're saying that it's like the only reason they have this one like main black character is because like the network was like, you need like one, just
At
one
least
like
one.
character that's not white.
Exactly. And I think that it kind of hurt. It hurt the book in my view. Like, I'm not trying to like make it different. It's just when it's so easy
Yeah, it's
to be
easy, yes.
inclusive and you're not, it's just like, oh, that's annoying.
And like for a universe that has a lot of queer fans, it feels like, I mean, her mom is queer, but like,
I mean, let's talk about Willow now. As we're talking about characters. There's a lot of will they or won't they with the Willow Oz situation, and I think that it was weird with them because Willow made the statement, "I'm a lesbian," and they still kind of made the will they or won't they. So, and then that also gets into the fact that we don't have any real queer
well,
representation outside of Willow herself.
and like, I like don't give me a will they or won't they for this couple that dated like 1,000 years ago when for 2 years in high school. Like, I just feel like,
Yeah,
eh,
it's it's like I get them having like little moments every
yeah,
once in a while, but it was weird for me seeing that, especially with them like they're very much in a very co-parent mentality
yeah,
with him and his younger brother,
cousin,
cousin,
cousin.
his brother, cousin, son. Um, yeah, which is another character we haven't talked about, Jake. I was okay with Jake. I think he was supposed to be kind of the comedian of the group.
He was kind of
Yeah,
like the like himbo jock.
yeah, yeah. He was okay. I didn't love him. Didn't hate him. I, Didn't
There
think he
was
added anything or taken away anything.
there was a moment when I thought he might be gay, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna like this character so much more if he's gay." But then he wasn't. But I don't remember what it was that he said in the book that I was like, "Ooh, I could read that as gay," but then he wasn't. But
They did the same thing with what, Sigmund?
yeah,
Yeah, same thing with Sigmund, the half demon.
because Sigmund felt very. I liked Sigmund actually. I wish so. We got a lot of him when he was introduced, and then he kind of became like a background side character. He was maybe my favorite of the new characters introduced, because that was, Buffy's my favorite show. But I will say the thing Angel did better was like showing us good demons, and like, not every demon is evil. Like, okay, they don't have a soul, but like sometimes they don't want to fight and they're chill, just like want to go to Lauren's bar and like hang out, So I like that, like, especially they were suspecting him for a minute, and I was gonna be bummed if it was him. Like I was like, I'm gonna be annoyed if it's this guy, because whatever. But because he didn't interact with Willow at first, I was like, he could be bad, because it's like he just said he was sent by Willow. Maybe like,
Yeah, they suspected him for like a hot second there.
yeah.
They?
But I just like bringing in a demon that's not bad. That's just like this. Like he seemed kind of like queer coded, because he seemed like very fancy and very like, oh, like charming, but not interested in the ladies. But then it was, so I was like, oh, he could be gay. I wouldn't mind a gay handsome demon. Like I would like that character.
Yeah, and he's very much a pacifist too.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it seems like romantic interest. Haley, we talked about her being Vi's sister, is the other character that comes in. I do like Haley a lot, honestly. I think that she might have been my favorite character overall. And she's more of a tough girl who punches first and asks questions later. And I liked her in the show because I think that she was more the gritty one. And Frankie was like, oh gosh, Haley seems like much more of a slayer. Maybe she should have been the slayer. And I'm like, maybe she should have.
I by the end of the book, when like we're going back and forth between the two of them fighting, I was like, there was a couple of times and I'm like, wait, which one's a slayer again? Because they were both very good at fighting, especially by the end. And even like sometimes in the middle of the book, because it did take me a little bit longer than usual to read this, I would be like, wait a minute. I'd be like this far into the book and I'm like, I'm mixing up who's the slayer and who's not the slayer.
Yeah. It wasn't the easiest thing for me to get through either, honestly. I think it's not the writing's fault. It was just
no.
that we're talking about.
We're both very particular with what we like, and that's all.
Yes, we're not trying to be like other fandoms right now. We're trying to be positive.
Hands up. Alistair and I I think both of us do a good job of like not being those fans.
Yes. I just because if you love this, I love that for you.
Yeah.
If you love this, I love that for you. And then so we talk about basically the new gang.
Should we talk about Spike?
Oh, Spike. I thought Spike's dialogue of all the old Scoobies was the coolest one for me. I thought it was funny. And the only thing is his plot of staying put in Sunnydale instead of trying to go find out what happened to Buffy made no sense to me, because that's not what Spike would have done. Spike would have left everybody behind. Well, maybe Spike, not. Maybe, unless Sarah's like, oh, you have to take care of.
Right. If Buffy told him you have to do this, then but like she didn't. So he would have been like, fuck you guys. I'm going to go to the like site and like look this shit. I'm not listening to Xander. Like I'm not putting it like waiting for him. I'm going to go look myself is what he would have done. And he's still Spiked. So maybe he wouldn't have found out anything, but it feels like his character would be like, no, I need to go make sure Buffy's like, not make sure she's dead, but you know what I mean? Like in case there's any chance she's alive, I'm going to look and check.
Yeah. His character would have gone and checked, and whoever did it would have probably trapped him and tortured him until Buffy came to save him.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I like your revision there. But I did enjoy him though. While I completely agree with what you're saying, Spike was of the old characters, I enjoyed him the most in this book. Because I do agree with you too. He was like pretty well written, the way like he talked like Spike, he acted like Spike, the way he would be annoyed. I enjoyed him the most. I had trouble picturing what they meant with like now he's old. Like, was it just like he looks like James Marsters looks like now, or did he look like old, like, some like 75-year-old man, right?
Well, they said like Giles, but like looking back at it, Giles really wasn't old. Like for me, when I started watching it, I was like, oh yeah,
Right.
he's old. But really, Giles was old. So I would say he maybe looks like he does now, I guess.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Um,
But
I
I
mean,
couldn't picture him in a suit. I was like,
I mean,
maybe. And
James,
then in my head, I was picturing Tabula Rasa when he wears the suit, like
I
from
was
Euphoria.
too. I was too. I think I was well, and also in my head, I was like, oh, so he's supposed to look like he's in his 40s now, but James Marsters was already in his 40s when he played the character.
Yeah.
So like,
I know
what
because
are we doing?
then I'm like, oh, but I'm almost 40. So how old is he supposed to look if he's looking old? Like,
Yeah, I think they were just trying to, I don't know, put a glamour on it, because, and then he's the librarian. That was very much trying to remake the old
which
Buffy with new
I'm
characters.
I am fine with that because I prefer a like requel to a full reboot. Like, don't give me the same story just like with different and trying to pretend Buffy doesn't exist. So I'm okay with that. But yeah, I do agree with you. It definitely was trying to like. So also, I wouldn't
Yeah.
imagine Spike would have the patience for training a teenager.
Yeah, which honestly could have been funny as a dialogue, and I agree with you. I prefer requel than a complete just slate cleaning. However, I don't think that you should clean the slate by killing everybody off before you do the requel. You know,
Especially like off page. Like it happens like
I know
eh,
they make it sound like it's the Watchers Council thing happening again.
yeah.
Um, so I mean that was all very interesting. So I mean now we're getting more into the plot of itself. So the plot is pretty straightforward. Frankie becomes a Slayer after Buffy and all the Slayers are killed at a Slayer Fest retreat, and she is like scared. Willow's like that has been like a renounced magic for a while because they're hinting that she will become Dark Willow or something like that. And then they decide not to investigate that, or like partially, but they're like outsourcing their investigation.
Yes.
And other stuff is happening in Sunnydale. A couple new demons moved in. There's a Instagram demon, and I actually did kind of like the Instagram demon. And they have Elizabeth Bathory as the new kind of the master slash Dracula coming into town. And I really enjoyed that storyline. And did you realize so that they put them? She did some weird writing to make sure that the mansion, Angel's mansion, was still there. I don't think it would have been there.
I actually was going to ask like there's something that happens that I was like, oh, it's not Angel's Mansion. I don't remember. I think it's because like Willow and Spike don't recognize it, right? Like Spike, or did Spike?
Uh,
I don't think he like recognizes it, which for me, I was like, oh, then it can't be.
it definitely was because she was wearing Drusilla's coat. Did you note that?
Okay, that's what I thought. But then because Spike didn't say anything, I was like, oh, it can't be the same mansion, right? Like it's just
Well, I'm pretty sure it's the same mansion by how it was described. But one
right, because
second.
realistically, it should have sunk in the hole.
Yes. Okay. So I'm almost 100%. Oh, because it would have made
Do you have
sense to
props? Are you gonna
email.
have? Are you have props to show me?
Yes. So okay. So this is the map Willow does her locator spell on, right? So
You show off.
I know I had to have the chance to do this at some point. Gosh, where is it?
I really thought you were gonna pull out your scythe because I'm always jealous. Alistair has a scythe, and I'm always jealous of it.
Oh, that one's packed up, but we left this one out. I just wanted it out. Zach got this for me for Christmas
This year, or
this year,
oh,
but
nice.
it came a little late. But it's good. Where the freak is it?
I have a good present for both of you. That's sitting on my floor. That is Buffy related.
Well, we're also moving so soon. Well, I can't find the mansion at this point, but I'm sure it would have sunk in anyways. I think it was just weird plot stuff.
Right. It would have had to have, right? There's no way it
Yeah.
was like, because that sinkhole, it wasn't like just the school. It was like
It was
the whole town.
huge, and
Yeah.
I mean that's another plot point. Like it doesn't make sense. So I saw Kendare Blake talk about this briefly,
Uh-huh.
and the justification for building the Sunnydale 2.0 is that California real estate is so lucrative that they would have built something there either way.
You know what? That's fair. That is completely fair. I will accept that 100%. I don't know that I accept that Willow would move back there and Oz and like, why would Oz's family go back? Like, okay, so what's his face? Jake was still there and like Jordy and the family had left, but like, why were they even there? Right.
Yeah. It was all very, very odd. And then there's an Oz, they had like a werewolf thing in New Zealand, I think, too. That was, and I was curious, why didn't they keep it Tibet? Because even in the fourth season, Oz mentions Tibet. So it wasn't like it was just a comics only thing. So I was curious about that. Maybe she didn't want to confuse people with the comics.
Yeah.
To think it was connected. But we actually do get, I really did enjoy the ending of this book. I thought some of the action scenes were pretty well written, and creative, and then we had a couple twists and turns, and very much Judge style, taking down Elizabeth Bathory, and
who
I
loved. The thing that I can't remember, I said this in our Patreon recording, but Elizabeth Bathory was almost like, and I mean this in the best sense, like she felt like a different version of Glory. She wasn't quite Glory, but I like that, like she's wearing her dress when she's fighting. She's wearing, she's like complaining like, oh, I really liked that dress. And then she's wearing like the fancy pantsuit. And then when that gets messed up, she's like pissed that her like outfits that she loves are getting messed up. And I did really like that.
No, yeah, I did. I like that they were like basically talking about how indestructible she was, and her vampire origin, where she's a woman who drank blood for so long that when she died, she became a vampire instead of like being sired. And I thought that was a really cool concept addition to the lore. There was one other addition to the lore, the charmed rule that she brought into this book, and I'm like, that's a charmed rule, that you can't do magic for your own gain. But it's more like, honestly, I think I likened it to food addiction for Willow, where she needs to learn how to like be able to eat food but not like binge eat, not let her cravings take over her,
not to let her food cravings take over and her skin a man alive. Yes.
I've been there, done that. No, but so we did have that, but overall, so I liked at the end of the book. The second book is going to be coming out. We don't have a date for that yet. I'm not sure at this point if I'll be picking it up, but it's possible.
Oh, Alistair, we'll both pick it up. We could have thought this book was the worst book in the world, and we would still pick up the next one.
Probably. I always try to support when any new Buffy stuff come out, like the new comics, and then the last Slayer ones. I'm waiting for that little binding to come out.
Yeah, me too.
And buy that one. So
and we can do an episode on that.
We can. I think that'd be really cool. But so this kind of concludes, unless you have any other thoughts about this.
No, not really.
Yeah, so this basically concludes our spoiler and spoiler-free thoughts on In Every Generation. If this sounds like something that you would love to pick up, definitely do so. If you're good and not reading it, also good. So this is a new book in the Buffyverse. So we'll see. I'm also wondering if Disney Hyperion is trying to stick their toes into the water to see if it's warm.
Right, to be like,
is there money there? Are we going to be able to fish out some money? And let me tell you, you can, but I feel like you need to be able to really satisfy because the people who are going to watch anything that's Buffy that's coming right out are going to be the old fans. So you do want to satisfy them, but you also want to bring in the new fans. So
Yeah.
it'll be
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
And
Don't
we
do Star Wars with this. So
what'd you say?
I said, don't do a Star Wars. Which I liked the Star Wars movies. I did. Even the new ones. I liked the new ones. You know, but I'm not going to say that mistakes weren't made. Mistakes were definitely made. You know, when they advertised the first movie, we thought we were finally actually getting a Black Jedi. And there was no reason that Rey and Finn couldn't have both been Jedis.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, and then they had the flirtation between him and, gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of the pilot.
Finn and Poe.
And then Finn, like Poe Finn takes his jacket, and I'm like, that's such a we're dating move, you know? So in my mind, they were dating.
And just because I know someone will correct you in the comments, there was a Black Jedi. There was Mace Windu, Samuel Jackson in the.
Oh yeah, I meant more of a not a titular character, but more of a main character.
Yeah.
I'm
just always anticipating because as having a podcast where I talk about pop culture things, you make a mistake and
they crucify you.
Well, and not even that. It's just like 85 people commenting the same thing to tell you what was wrong. And it's like, oh, okay, all right. So I try to always like fix that before we get there.
Oh, speaking of other things that were wrong, just real quick. They had a lot of stuff in the book that would not have been there after Sunnydale collapsed. And I would have really loved a quick fix for that. Like even just a magical fix for that, because she had Buffy's cross, that she wore in like season 1 and season 2,
and her dress,
and Willow's dress, and I think a couple other like little pieces of memorabilia where I was like, oh,
right, because no one packed shit in season 7. We didn't see like
we didn't see any of that. So I was very curious about that. Plus, I'm really curious right now where the scythe is.
So that's true. I wonder, like, would they have taken it with them?
Yeah, where is it? Where is it? But yeah, so those are our thoughts on this. Check it out if you would like to. If you would like to hear more thoughts on ours, then you can check out.
My Slayerfest 98's Patreon. Me, Alistair, and my Slayerfest 98 editor Ashley talked about the book, and that'll be going up probably next week.
Yes, and then obviously you can also check out Slayerfest 98 for any other of your Buffy content.
As we're finishing out season 7.
Finishing out season 7. That is so sad. But you get to start afresh and new with season 1 at some point, I'm guessing. Or Angel, or both. Angel. Yeah. So that's very exciting. I love both of those ideas. And I will see you later, gentle viewers. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.